The word's kind of bad. So this is the Iron Sun, and I wanted to talk a bit about evil and about how the Bible speaks about women essentially being capable of the greatest evil. They create like the grand evil, essentially. Um, that's at least how I interpret it. So I'll just explain it how I understand it. And I know there's people that say, "Oh, you're misogynist or you're weird" or something like that. I understand that this is the times. Um, One of the main things about my channel is telling the truth and saying what I believe to be true without question, without wavering. So here it is, without further ado. So to say it as concisely as possible, I believe that the the main scheme of evil, and it hasn't changed. It doesn't matter what nation, what time frame. We could be talking about ancient Rome, Mesopotamia. It doesn't matter. In every great nation, evil uses the same scheme in order to break down that nation, in order to break down the family, in order to break the resolve of the people, and to make them desolate and to make them despotic. I'm letting this motorcycle cross. So, evil. So the main premise is that evil, it deceives women, and it deceives women by making women prideful. It makes women think that there's something more than there actually is. So it creates illusions for women to follow. And these women, they follow these illusions at the expense of the men, at the expense of their husbands, at the expense of their brothers, at the expense of the greater good, because evil knows that women are closer to evil. They know that women are selfish at heart, and they know that women can easily be seduced. So evil, it seduces women, it deceives women in order to conquer men. In order to conquer men, what's happening is that the men see that the women are being deceived. They can see it clear as day. So there's no confusion. The only thing is, because the women are deceived, it drives everyone to compete to get what the women need. So this means the corporations of that time, the businesses of that time, the men of that time, either the higher status men, the politicians of that time, even the politicians will kowtow to women, because the main idea is that women women, by being deceived by evil, that's what that is what drives a nation into darkness, because women will because of the selfishness of women, it it will actually force the men to capitulate to those women. The men will actually give up their authority and capitulate to the women, and then this will drive things even further into darkness. We see this throughout history. It started with Eve and the apple in the tree, but then now the most recent thing is feminism. Feminism was the most recent example of this. The apple in this case was getting a job, and not just getting a job, but working more than 40 hours, right? This lowered the wages for men and descended both of us into even more darkness. That darkness in this case would be taxation, and our wages being lowered even more. So the men who had to make decent wages in order to attract women to begin with, um, they were forced to make even less and to matter even less to women, because the women were deceived by evil and to work and work and work. And so both of them were taxed. And so now we're at a position where inflation is rising in the United States and everything is getting worse. There's about, from what I understand, there's at least 3 to 10 million men out of the workforce who are dropping out of the workforce because they don't have any purpose any longer. Their purpose used to be to provide and protect for women, but now that purpose has been undermined by women, has been undermined by corporations, And so, yes. Now, to describe a little bit further, um, the Bible speaks about how the evils of women is pretty much the worst kind. But the reason why I believe this is the case is because the evil that women have is by proxy. Nobody sees this evil. The reason why they don't see it is because of several things. The women are wonderful effect. The fact that we naturally want to protect women. The fact that we are naturally attracted to women. They're desirable, naturally desirable. They're more desirable than even men. They kind of have the monopoly on desirability, and so this these things are what cause these are the factors that cause us to that caused me to believe that the evil of women are worse. And it kind of like makes me think, was the Bible talking about the women are wonderful effect? Because the women are wonderful effect actually makes us believe that women are actually better people than the average man. So we see women as better, we see them as smarter, we see them as more trustworthy, etc., etc. So essentially, it's almost like the halo effect, but specifically for women. And also, an example of this would be prison sentences and how you see lower prison sentences for women, more leniency, and the likes. So going back to the sexuality aspect, so sexuality aspect kind of connotes how men see women and how this affects our judgment and oftentimes makes us treat a woman as a little bit higher than another man. So the other aspect is that, so for example, let's speak about the men in prison. So men in prison, a lot of men in prison are in prison because of women. The women were engaged in extramarital affairs, or they were engaged with a man who they weren't supposed to be with, and this caused violence. Now this is a proxy thing, right? So the women, a lot of times, have caused. Now I understand that there are factors involved, like narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and um, things such as that. Personality disorders that can cause this as well, which is not really gendered. Um, so, but to add to that, um, the evils that women, so I'll give a little bit more examples of the evils that women cause and perhaps the underlying facets of it, and then we'll leave it at that. So false accusations. False accusations are common in the United States. Some reports show that it's between 10% and 44% in any given institution, any given organization. The DoD also reports that it is likely between 22 and 44%. These are just estimates. I don't know the actual number, but the idea is that you can falsely accuse another person for doing something, and that person, generally speaking, there's not really been heard a lot of evidence that people who do these things are actually reprimanded in any serious way. But regardless of whether the person is proven right or wrong, whether they actually did it or not, most times their lives are destroyed, socially destroyed. Friends ignore them. A lot of these people end up leaving the earth. They end up self-deleting. Now, when I say these people, I mean men. Um, there's a lot of things that women do emotionally that go unseen, that are very emotionally violent towards other people. And we don't really have a way to fight against this. Now, it's very clear when it comes to the trifles of men, um, and how men deal with each other violently, physically. Can easily deal with that because we can see it. But when it comes to the emotional and relational violence that a woman does, there's no way to fight it. There's no way to combat it or even have some sort of justice against it. So this creates its own evil that goes unseen, which is why I believe the Bible speaks about the evilness of women and how it's really bad, compared to just normal evil. Um, Another reason I think the Bible speaks about women's women's deceit, women's behavior, in terms of the dark behavior being among the worst, is because I think women are the vessels that are being primarily used by evil because of how dark and the I guess the emotion as well and the lack of remorse. Their vessels are actually more likely to be used for evil, for greater evil, for grand like so the greater scheme. So I'll give you an example for divorce, right? So women, they justify their evil based off of their own needs. So women believe that taking half of not I'm not saying all women when I say this, I'm just saying as a group, right? So women believe that taking half of a man's stuff is actually good. It's actually justified because the man was married to her and therefore she's entitled to his stuff. But so then the other aspect is that we have women who are in the school system who are having unnatural relations with young men, and these situations aren't leading into they're not really leading to people creating stereotypes for women in teaching and education in the same way that men who are teaching and education have these same stigmas against them because of men who've done wrong. um, Again, I'll just kind of cover it because I've been trying to cover things really fast and just get the information out. um, so as a general rule, evil deceives women. It pushes them, it entices them with their own egos into delusion. And this deceiving of women and constantly moving them further and further into delusion is what conquers men and allows them to conquer entire nations because the men follow those women into darkness. So, in order for evil to conquer the world, it tends to go through the weaker vessel, through women. And so, most of the evil that you see happening in the world, proliferating in the world, especially in the political realm, in the social realm, most of it goes through women. It doesn't matter what nation, what country. In ancient Rome, same thing. A lot of times, if you want to neutralize greater evils, what you have to do is you have to rein in the women. Because if you rein in the behavior of the women, evil won't really have a foothold. It doesn't matter what. Now, yes, there's general things you have cops and stuff so you can keep men from being violent, and there's negative aspects of males that you have to rein in as well. But it's primarily the females that you have to rein in if you want to rein in evil. If you want to stop evil from destroying your nation, you have to stop women. And you have to stop women not by blaming women, but by holding them accountable. When you hold women accountable, that actually changes how your nation runs. It changes how it operates. But here's the other main thing that you have to understand about evil and about women and the nature of how that fits in with society. Women are not supposed to rule over others because this ruling over others actually allows evil to proliferate because women naturally don't have the accountability necessary in order to actually rule over another person because psychologically they see themselves as the recipient, as the people who need help. They see themselves as self above self before tribe. Men see themselves as tribe before self, meaning they're more likely to want to help others before they help themselves, where women are more likely to want to help themselves before they help others. This psychological disposition is why having women in positions of power actually destroys nations